officially started.
We
It's
really
not
haven't.
real. You have to leave a little bit of buffer. Okay, so welcome back to the much awaited return of the Lightning Strikes podcast, which is a podcast by Lightning owners for Lightning owners, maybe past owners, maybe future owners, potential owners, and definitely for current owners. So, with me tonight is Jace Kraft Miller from. You're still in Ohio, right?
Yes, I am. I've not moved.
Okay, how you doing, Jace? Feeling good?
Yeah, very good. How are you guys?
Great. And with us too is Joe Schultes up in New York. How's it going, Joe?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having getting this back on and ready to go, Joe.
Well, you guys were the ones really, I think spinning the wheel and pushing and poking me because there's just so much exciting stuff to talk about. So I think what we probably have the most content and the most to talk about, the most things to say is in regards to the NACS adapter, which completely took me by surprise. We all knew that, we had heard that they'd be available in spring of 24 or that they'd be available. Yeah, a lot of vague wording there. But then I'm just sitting at the Ford dealership getting something fixed, and I hop on Twitter and I see Jace just flaunting right in my face that not only is the adapter real, but he's got one in his hand and he's using it at a Tesla supercharger, which just blew me away. So, what was that like, Jace? Like, first of all, how did you end up with an adapter? I'm sure there are people on Twitter that are wondering how did some of these people get them early?
Yeah, sure. Good question. Yeah. And I think, Patrick and Liv have kind of covered it as well in their, YouTube videos. And basically, Ford just reached out and said, hey, we'd really like to give, a few select folks the opportunity to, try these out. And I think, Ford is always really selective about the people that they choose. They choose sort of people all around, the U.S. so that we can kind of get, different viewpoints on things. And so, yeah, they reached out and, we got the OTA sent to the truck and we were ready to go, a few days prior. And it's just a matter of, making it happen. So that morning we met up with a couple folks from Ford and, plugged in. And I mean, it was pretty seamless. Definitely a little different with no, charging speed on, there's no screen, so that's something that, is a little bit different. With EA, we're used to just looking on the display and we can see it. So, using the Ford Pass app, which is so nice. So we have at least the charging speed on that now. So at least we can see what speed we're getting. And, but it was great. The chargers around here are mostly empty, even Tesla superchargers. So, we pulled up, there were I think one or two people there and within 5 minutes they were gone. The whole thing was empty. So, super seamless and it was super exciting. It was such a surprise. So, yeah.
So did you get any weird side eye? Because admittedly, we're all kind of in our own echo chamber in a way. We're in the Ford family, so we knew this was coming down the pike. I know some Tesla people may have been more aware than others. So did you get any weird, any weird looks?
We did right away.
Okay.
We had the guy right next to us. He's like, those adapters came out. He knew, exactly what we were doing pretty much. He was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know those came out yet. And didn't really say much beyond that. But I mean, he obviously knew.
Well, so then Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, you also were one of the lucky few that were shipped the adapter. And so you've also gotten to try it out in your neck of the woods. So was your experience similar to Jace's? Tell me all about that.
It wasn't shipped to me. I actually had to drive out to Jersey and meet up with the Ford team out there. What I was told is there was only 25 of those prototypes throughout the country. So there was a very limited amount of people that were actually picked to do this. But again, we're part of Jason and I are part of the early access program. So I think they really picked the most of us were all part of that EAP that they picked. So I don't think it was like, hey, you have a certain amount of followers, come out here. I think it was more of, we need you to test this real world on different trucks other than our own, the truck that they brought down. I saw last year in Jersey when I first met the Ford team. So that truck's actually on its way out. They're going to recycle it or whatnot. But, they wanted to get actually customers using them and basically teach everybody what to do with them. So, yeah, I drove out to Jersey. It was about a 3-hour drive. I got down there, Obviously, the East Coast, we get sunrise before everybody else. So I was number 2 to charge on a Tesla charger. Noel from the Northeast Lightning Club actually beat me there. He was there at like 6 a.m. and I got there at 8:30. So he was there when the Ford team pulled in, and he got to go first. So it was really cool that we were one and 2 for the Northeast Lightning Club over here. But it just, the wave went right across the country. I was watching Twitter all morning once we were doing it. I watched Jace jump on, and then the West Coasters jumped on a couple hours later. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool to watch my Twitter kind of do that same time zone shift of like, I liked one post about it, and then I scroll and I see another person with it. It was pretty cool. Also interesting to know that there were only 25 sent out, but even such a small number, what jumps to mind as you tell your stories is what a brave move by Ford. Because if your experience was anything but positive, you had the freedom to share that feedback in real time. I mean, it could have been less seamless and you could have shared that information with the world. But luckily, every video I watched seemed like everybody kind of knew the plan. And in the box, right, there were kind of instructions just to make sure you knew. I mean, it's self-explanatory.
Super easy instructions for it, though. I mean, it tells you to plug the adapter into the charger first and then into the truck instead of vice versa. So, there is definitely a step-by-step process you need to follow, but it's super easy.
Well, and another thing that Jace educated me on a few months back is that, just for anybody that might be watching, it may be well advertised by now, but this will not necessarily work at every single charger you see that says Tesla on it. So Jace, do you care to kind of educate us on why that's the case?
Yeah, sure. So, we really weren't sure. We heard V3s were coming, but nobody really knew exactly if that meant all V3s, if that meant, what it meant really. And so kind of what we've seemingly found out is that it's not all V3s. There are some that still remain. To my knowledge, Tesla had to like switch out boards in every single, station. And there was a lot of work that went into this, not just, some OTA that was sent to them and, all of a sudden they're online. So, we do know obviously that we kind of knew that V2s would not, probably be available to us. So that wasn't too big of a surprise, but I think it was a little bit surprising that it's not all V3s in a certain sense, at least it was to me. But it seems like the vast majority are available. So, I mean, I still think that, it's I think 2,300 we're adding chargers, I should say stations themselves, and it's about 15,000, chargers individuals. So I still think, it's huge. And Tesla is just, the pace that they're installing these are just like, it's fast. It's like crazy. I started following the Tesla charging account a few weeks ago, and I was like, holy cow, like not just in the US, but Canada and across the world, they're installing so many stations. So I think, it'll get better for sure.
Yeah, and before I forget, I'll take this moment. Obviously, I don't have my adapter, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Ford. I mean, obviously, we're all Ford fans here, but objectively speaking, I am so proud that Ford is the first brand to see this get over the finish line. And not only in the boardroom, sure, they made the agreement a while ago, and we happened to be first then as well. But there were plenty of opportunities for this to fall apart between now and then. And I'm so, again, I'll use the word proud that we are on the forefront of starting this movement towards consistency and uniformity when it comes to charging in North America. And nobody else will be able to say that. No other brand will be able to say, so we're kind of blazing the trail, but that comes with some growing pains that I was hoping to talk to you guys about. So on Twitter, I've seen a variety of approaches when it comes to how a station is laid out, and obviously the limitations of our hardware being that our charge port is in a different location. So I'll kick it back to Joe. When you went and charged, you said that they're obviously not super busy that time of day. But can you talk us through kind of the etiquette or lack thereof if you're a Ford approaching like a Tesla supercharger?
Yeah. So when I was actually there, it was actually rush hour, and there were actually, I want to say it was probably 8 or 9 Teslas there, along with the entire Ford team. So they had, I think, 2 Mach-E's, a Lightning, and then we had us. Kyle Connor was there.
Was it 12 stalls, Joe? Or
I think so. Yeah, it was busy.
Okay.
Like we had cars staged on the opposite side of the. It was at a Wawa, so we had cars staged on the
Oh,
opposite side of the gas pumps. We were charging, and then we'd all move and let somebody else in. The etiquette is pretty simple. I mean, obviously, I know it's going to be a big pain for Tesla users that are so used to straight lines. Everybody's perfect. It's just it doesn't work right now. I know they're working on that with the V4s. I saw West Coast had V4s, and those were perfect. There was nobody blocking anything. It was nice. Ford vehicles, go to the right. Stay on the right side of the chargers. If you stay to the right, and everybody stays to the right on the Fords, you're going to block less as a group. If the Tesla, the rest of the Teslas are on the left-hand side. For now, obviously, it's just going to be a temporary solution. But that's the best way to not make too many people angry. I would put it that way.
yeah, and I think Patrick and Liv brought up a good point too, that if you see another Ford or you see, another, I guess, driver side front, CCS, something like there, or another vehicle that's going to take up a second stall, let's put it that way, that you should park, as close to them as possible as well.
Exactly.
To help try to.
Okay, that makes sense. And even I started researching some of my road trips, and I'm like, okay, did any of these get easier thanks to the addition of all these chargers?
Yeah.
And I'm looking on Google Maps at kind of the layout, and it's, I'll admit there was a lot more variety in how a station is laid out than I anticipated, depending on what kind of parking lot it's in, if there's like a cement dividers or if they're just kind of plopped in the middle. So I think we can't give you a copy and paste suggestion for every supercharger that you're going to approach, because
exactly.
also you can't ever really be prepared for the layout of cars that will be there.
And people come and people go. I think it's, we saw it when we pulled in on our very first supercharge, right? Like we pulled in, we couldn't go all the way to the right. We had to go all the way to the left. There happened to also be a Red Bull delivery truck. We thought it maybe was broken down. We weren't sure, but it was parked in the leftmost spot. So we had to go kind of in the middle with all three of our CCS cars. And, like I said, within 5 minutes, the station was then fully empty except for the broken down delivery truck. So, somebody would have pulled in. I'm like, what the heck? These Fords, they all parked on the left-hand side. But that was only because, there were Teslas there before.
Yep.
Well, and I think I'll just take this opportunity. I mean, we're all going to have different approaches to this. And on Twitter, I've seen a lot of different choices about how we're going to proceed as an EV community and as a Ford community. My 2 cents is like, we have to play nice in the sandbox here. Like getting there and trying to stick your elbows out is not going to speed up anybody's charging experience. And so admittedly, I haven't gotten to have this experience in real life, but I'd like to think, we are the first new guests through this door that has now been opened. I feel like we are going to have to set the tone in a positive way for every manufacturer that comes after us. So that's just my soapbox.
I really do feel like it's highly regionalized. Like I've seen, the pictures out west where, you might have, they laugh at like 8 to 12, station stalls. They're like, that's funny. That's so, we don't have that, so, and where here, that's common. We don't have anything above 12 really. Yep. Even 8 is the most common. So, it's just a different world in different places. It's a big country we live in, and most of all the chargers are empty. I don't care what they are, around here. So, which is good, for us, but for adoption, maybe not. But I think we're getting there, and I from what I've noticed, it's a big help around the cities. In the Midwest and the Great Lakes specifically. Rural, not so much. The V2s really seem to rule the roost when it comes to the rural, parts of Michigan and Ohio. So Ohio is actually a little bit better seemingly than Michigan. Michigan up north needs some work with V3s, but I think we'll get there.
Well, then my other question is: so any supercharger that's getting installed from this point forward is a V3 or a V4? Am I correct in assuming that? Or
you are correct, but will it be available? That's a different question. But yeah, you're correct. From here on out, I mean, hopefully they'll switch over to V4 soon. But I mean, it looks like they're installing kind of both. But Will they be available to us is a good question.
And just another small call out is that as I'm thinking about all the public charging experiences I've had, I'm used to Electrify America, which has one charging station. It has 2 plugs, but obviously you can only use one at a time. So just to put it on record, Tesla V3s and V4s, there's one plug on each totem, each charging spot. And so that will not be a barrier, but just wanted to put that out there. I did, when I pulled into Lowe's today, it was a weird moment, but Ford decided to tell me right then that I was queued for a OTA tomorrow morning, which says it's the Tesla supercharging OTA.
Nice.
So
awesome.
I was like, oh, does that mean my adapter's on the way? But so we were talking about this briefly. It may have been just after or just before we went live. You guys were lucky enough to get the adapters, but they are now out of your possession. Am I understanding that correctly?
Sadly, but yes.
So then we're back on the timeline that we had, which is that we're hoping to have them, if you reserved them, and we can talk later about how to reserve your supercharger adapter. We're just hoping to get them by end of spring.
Yeah,
I
think it depends.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
Everybody has a different date. I've seen ranges from March all the way out to August. Depends on what time you ordered it on the day it opened. By the end of that day, it was pretty deep into the summer months. So you have until June to put your order in. So there's not really, they're not going to not ship it to you. It's just going to be kind of late in the year. So.
That's interesting because when I saw Jace holding the adapter on Twitter, luckily, shout out to Matt Lynn. I think his Twitter handle is the EV Dad, the EV Truck Dad, the EV Dad. Okay, which he probably stole that handle from you, Joe.
I wasn't going to say it.
Right.
You should have trademarked that a little sooner, though, Joe.
Right. Luckily, he had posted a link to where you reserve. You can also do it through the app. But man, when I was sitting there at Ford and I am high on cloud 9, I see a Jace and Joe holding the adapter down for a good minute. So I don't know where I'm at in the queue, but I guess we take that as a glass half full. There were many, many, many Ford owners engaged and eager to get their hands on one of those adapters.
So if you look at the confirmation email that you got, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I think it's interesting that I think it's interesting that there was a lot of demand. I think Ford planned for the demand. I really do, but I think it's just like it's overwhelming no matter. And that's why kind of, in my opinion, the announcement was a little bit of surprise in a sense, just because you didn't want to. I mean, it was already overloaded. You knew it was going to be overloaded no matter what you did, and it still was overloaded. So I think. It was interesting how it all worked out, but I think in the end everybody's going to get one, and hopefully they can speed up those timelines a little bit too for some folks.
Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead, Joe.
That's okay. So the website was completely down, but the app was still allowing people to order it. And I don't think they anticipated how sick of other EV charging companies that we want to get on these Tesla chargers. Plus, you're giving something away for free. You're definitely going to get bombarded at that point. But
that's what I was going to say, being free. And I think too, like we were talking about this before we went live. Like, I'm not in the house where like I have to have this and I need to use it to get somewhere. I'll do what I've been doing for the last 3 years to get somewhere, unless it was West Virginia. Story, but other than that, it doesn't really affect me, but I think it's just, you want it, it's something new. It opens up more options, possibilities, regardless if we need it, we want it just because it's something exciting. It's something new.
Yep.
Well, and so that kind of brings us nicely to, once I got to the reservation page, Ford, so the messaging on the box that they loaned you guys, when you got to try them out, it said our gift. And I think that messaging is so appropriate because they could have charged us for this. They could have said, congrats, you get access to the supercharger network, but it's going to cost you. In this case, $230. It was pretty
Yeah.
transparent. And actually, yeah, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys went through the reservation process just like we did. So that was interesting. What do you guys think about the price point? What do you think about Ford giving it to us for free? Obviously, we're all big fans of that. But knowing that at the end of June, Ford owners will have to buy this, because we speculated a lot on what this would cost, what the value would be, and then would they charge us that amount? So what do you guys think about just how Ford chose to roll this out?
Go ahead, Joe.
I really was surprised at how fast it rolled. Obviously, they're working in the background. We didn't know anything was coming until we got asked to meet them at the Chargers, but
which was literally like a few days before, by the way. It's not like we've known for weeks.
The night before I got my OTA for my truck, like last minute I got my truck up to date. Like, I was one of the late ones. They were a little worried about my truck, but we made it. So just the way they rolled it out, it was just, I know they were working extremely hard to make this happen, and I know the whole thing isn't 100% ready to go. Tesla still has to update their software to allow more charging stations, Apple Maps, the navigation in the trucks, Google Maps, all that stuff has to catch up with this new information that needs to be added now. So just a lot of other manufacturers and other companies that have to work on this. So,
and Tesla too, in a certain sense, with longer cables, and there's still work to be done. I mean, I actually think we kind of have a little bit of an advantage as Lightning owners. It's a further reach a little bit to get to the port, but we have a higher ground clearance, so we can kind of. I saw Sergio just a little bit ago say that he went over like a little curb thing to get.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, and it's like, but I think those, we do have a little bit of an advantage. I've noticed we've had to do that like pretty much every stop that we've gone to so far. I guess we've only done 2, but we've had to go as far forward as we literally possibly can.
Yeah, and one interesting thing that I tweeted, I'm going to take us briefly off topic, is that there used to be all these signs at Tesla superchargers that said Tesla charging only. And I thought there was, again, some symbolism there that those are going to start to have to come down, because the reality is more than Teslas are going to be charging there. So I found that interesting.
And bollards. They've done a lot of bollard removement.
Yeah, I've seen them removing the signs and the bollards. So the new signs now say EV charging with the Tesla logo at the top. So.
Although, was it yours that I saw, Joe, that it said, like, where you guys stopped in New Jersey, it said general parking 30 minutes? Was it you?
No,
Somebody had one that said, like, Tesla, they had a Tesla symbol, and then it said, like, general parking 30 minutes. And I was like, what general park? Like,
I'm going to be honest. I was extremely distracted and excited. I may have missed that, but I don't think
there was a lot going on. There was a lot going on. I was like trying to tweet, take videos, do like the see.
I finally got to meet Kyle Connor in person. That was like half of the excitement of when I pulled in. The other half was the Charger, obviously. So I may have missed that on my own and took a picture of it and didn't even notice. I'll really have to go back and look.
Yeah, my jaw hit the floor when Kyle said your name in his video, which you guys are setting up softballs for me here. You're segueing perfectly. Like, so obviously we're Ford owners, so we're going to love this. But you've got these unbiased third parties like Kyle, who was equally excited to see this transition happen. And I watched Kyle's video. If you haven't, go watch Kyle Connor's video.
Really good.
But how cool to see. I don't think I've ever seen Kyle smile as big as he did in that video when he plugged in, because his life is charging in reality based on the videos that he's uploading. Yeah, and so for him to be doing this for as long as he has and have that moment and get to film it and get to share it with us, for someone like, I've only owned my EV for less than a year, so I think it's important to appreciate that perspective of, like, even though I've been enduring this for less than 12 months, it truly is a momentous moment. So yeah, I'm thrilled that this adapter only costs, it's free to us, but then when you buy your electric Ford, let's say this September, I mean, to roll in another $230 into your financing is not going to move the needle hardly at all. So I wouldn't let that stop anybody. Any final thoughts on NACS charging with your Ford vehicle? Joe, do you have your Mach-E yet? I remember you submitted an order a while ago. Did you?
I
You took
did.
delivery?
It came in. The value of my wife's Ford Edge actually dropped significantly to the point where we couldn't get out of it without losing our shirts. So we decided it wasn't a good financial move at the moment. So if it came in like 2 months earlier, it would have been great, but no big deal.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's all right. The access to these chargers, like for me, like I tow my camper. Once this is built into the navigation in the truck, I'm gonna be gold. Like there's still that worry of I'm not gonna make it to the next one, especially over here in upstate New York with the Adirondack Mountains. So if I go anywhere near Massachusetts or up north, I'm climbing mountains and the truck freaks out immediately because it's like you're not gonna make it, because I'm uphill. Knowing that there's going to be so many more stops that I can make it's a sigh of relief. And back to the Kyle thing real quick. Kyle's been in this obviously longer than we have. When I first reserved my truck, I started watching Kyle, and he's been in the thick of the absolute worst charging conditions in this country and the infrastructure. And to see this finally happen and to see this complete turn in the evolution of transportation, I'm just as excited as he is, and obviously he's a lot more invested than I am, but this is huge for the entire industry, not just Ford.
Well, so I promise not to talk too long about this, but when I saw that was becoming reality, when I saw you guys on Twitter, I impulse bought some gigantic wheels and tires for my Lightning. And you might be asking yourself, how are those two things related? But in my head, I kind of justified, like, even on those road trips, like, that was one of the barriers of upgrading my truck was if I'm making it less range efficient, I'm shooting myself in the foot because of the infrastructure. But now I've got this new, all those little gaps, every leg of the trip just got theoretically shorter because now I've got all these extra chargers. So just another example of how it's improving the life of a Ford owner.
Yeah, I think it's a big moment in history. Like, I think too, we've seen actually, Joe being in Ohio as well, we've seen that Nevi already is growing massively. I mean, there's like 4 stops. I think it's 3 or 4 Pilot Flying J's that we can stop to on our way up to Northern Michigan now, which has just appeared in the last 6 to 8 months, So there's big, there's big movement elsewhere too, especially Ohio with us being first, to move with the Nevi funds. But
build off that real quick. Props to Ohio, by the way. I made a trip out to Chicago a month ago.
We're saying
Holy
that, but yeah,
crap! Ohio has it down. I'm going out I-90 through Ohio, and you've got a CCS and you've got a Tesla charger at almost every rest stop on that highway.
We need those Tesla chargers open though on the turnpike.
Right, exactly.
I sent you those pictures. It's weird, but
there was one spot that only had Tesla chargers on the way out, and then on the way back, I think it was the same thing. But like now that we have the adapters and everything, what's that?
That's the one right by our house, actually. The one with only Tesla superchargers.
Yeah, and it was mind-boggling to me. Like New York State, the highways around it, we don't have anything like that. We have a couple at the stations, but they're 50 kilowatts. They barely work. Screens are black when you go by them. Like you have to get off the highway. Whereas this, I'm stopping, I'm plugging in, I'm going inside, getting food, drink, and restroom, and I'm back in the truck, and it's already done. Like that's exactly what the entire country needs to do. Ohio is setting the bar.
Yeah, in the early Mach-E days, even like those chargers literally enabled us to go to Northern Michigan. Like we bought the Mach-E, within the first month of it going on sale. We took a big jump. We were like, we're just going to do it. And that was I had to make sure that we could make it to Northern Michigan. And those EA chargers literally enabled that, trip to become a reality even back in 2021 or whatever it was, 2021. So, I just hope to see the rest of the Tesla superchargers open because the EA infrastructure is a little bit older. We definitely need, I showed you the one, we have like one
Joe, we have like one supercharger on the turnpike. Eastbound is open, but westbound is not available to us.
Yep.
Like literally just right over the next, other side of the turnpike. So it's like, and the ones by our house are not available at all. So
you're talking about the superchargers.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no EA at that stop at all. So I hope to see that fixed quickly.
Well, when I said that we were done talking about NACS, yes. I lied because I thought of a couple more things. But before we dive into that, I want to give a shout out. I totally forgot about the chat. I'm being fired from the podcast as we speak. So I want to give a shout out to Kurt and Kevin and Mac and Chris, who are all in the chat. Thanks for...
Howdy, y'all.
So we got Gary Bates there, too.
Oh, Gary. Hey, Gary.
So, Joe, you brought up speeds, which I think is that kind of nerd topic that I've learned to love over the last year. So I'll just start by saying Jace educated me last year that V3 superchargers, if you pull up in a Tesla, theoretically are going to deliver that Tesla 250 kilowatt charging speeds.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to kick it to either of you to tell us why a Ford Lightning will not see those numbers, but also feel free to share the numbers that you did see when you got to test out these adapters.
Jace?
So we don't charge that quickly, unfortunately. That's just really the bottom line of it. I mean, we've seen numbers, Lightning and Mach-E met 150 max, but we see a little bit over that, of course. Ford kind of under promises, over delivers when it comes to that. So, I think like rated the standard range is like 120 kilowatts. And, we have both standard range and extended range. And I can tell you, we see much more than 120 kilowatts on a very regular basis with the standard range. So, so we won't see those speeds, but, like Kyle Connor said, and I've said this all along about the Lightning, what is so impressive to me is that it has a very flat charge curve. Yeah, it just sits there, and we don't ever precondition. Like, I don't use the native nav, sorry to Ford, but I just don't. And I use CarPlay. That's our go-to. And I love it. And especially now that we have EV map, routing, route planning, I absolutely love it. But we never precondition. And even in our trips up north, it's 28 degrees, sometimes even, negative with wind chills and stuff. And we plug in and we jump up to 150, literally probably 99% of the time, unless I'm at a really high state of charge where I don't get the boost. But it's pretty consistent. So, we won't see those speeds correct, but I jumped right up in my standard range too. I think we saw a top of like 155, 159, somewhere right around there. And it held it pretty good a few minutes, and then we started to go down, but same as very similar to EA time wise. I wouldn't really say it was much quicker. I wouldn't really say it was much slower. It was really very on par with what we get at an EA station.
I had the complete opposite experience.
I remember I saw your tweet.
I got way too excited about this. I hit 174 kilowatts on my truck when I plugged in at 27%, and it ran at that for probably 20 minutes. It was impressively fast. I got to 90% in 40 minutes, which I would normally take me longer than that to hit 90. Once I hit the 80%, on EA, I usually drop down to like 35 kilowatts. I was holding 54 the entire time, all the way up to 90. So that was really, really cool to see that the capability of those chargers and the reliability of those chargers is a lot better. I see a couple guys in the chat here. Marty Meek asked if we could talk about Charge Assist and navigation integration. So Charge Assist is the app that Jason and I actually got to test through the early access program. Early, what was that? Last fall, I think, right?
Yeah.
The Charge Assist app is really the only in the truck way to find a Tesla charger right now. It allows you to pull up and activate the charger remotely from the truck itself instead of pulling up the Tesla app or using plug and charge if you don't like that. So that is an option to find the Tesla chargers inside the truck. Navigation, though, at this time does not find the Tesla chargers because it's run by a third-party company that Ford has brought into their software. So that's going to take a little bit longer to get that on board, but they're working on it.
And one final point on NACS, because we haven't really discussed this yet, and I think it was kind of a surprise. I wanted to bring this up earlier to a lot of folks that we thought it might be coming. We weren't sure. It is plug and charge. So that is huge. Like the Tesla, you just plug it in and you charge. I still see all the time people saying, like, what do you mean? Like, you have to use the Tesla app. No, you do not have to use the Tesla app. You do not even have to use the Ford Pass app. You obviously have to have your information in there so that it can charge to that. But there's no activating on the phone. There's no activating on an app. You literally can just plug in and charge. And yes, if you do want to get that, subscription pricing, you can. You just have to make sure you activate through whatever respective app you're using. That goes for EA. That goes for the Tesla Supercharger network. You do not have to turn off plug and charge, by the way, which is key because you can't use Charge Assist if you have plug and charge off. So you want to be able to have that on, which there were some issues with that back in like the early Mach-E days. You'd have to turn off plug and charge to be able to get that EA subscription pricing because it'd run into issues. You can leave plug and charge on now. You just have to with EA, you activate it, the screen will switch on the EA stall, and that's when you know that plug and charge is no longer, being activated. Very similar for Tesla as well.
So, Jace, I actually had an issue with that coming out to Chicago when I drove out. I had a couple chargers that I didn't start it before I plugged it in. I plugged it in first, and it took the plug and charge instead of my discounted price.
You can't plug in first. Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
Don't follow the instructions when you're trying to get discounts.
Yes. Yeah. And another thing we have seen that I wanted to mention, that there does seem to be a bug right now with if you use a Tesla, which this won't affect many people until we start getting more adapters, and I'm sure they'll get it fixed. But we've seen a couple people who have used plug and charge on a Tesla station and then right away tried to plug into an EA station using plug and charge, and the plug and charge is declining. So Patrick experienced that, I think, yesterday or the day before as well. So I know Ford, that's been reported to Ford, they're working on it. I'm sure it's probably a quick fix on their end and they'll figure it out, but that does seem to. So if you do find yourself with an adapter, you do find yourself at the Tesla station, then you want to quickly use EA, right after, or vice versa, I believe, it will decline on that plug and charge. Maybe you could toggle plug and charge real quick and that could fix it. I'm not really sure, but something to keep in mind, which I will keep in mind for my road trip next weekend as well.
Well, and just since we may have new Lightning owners, I know when I was a new Lightning owner, I didn't know that I had to go into the Ford Pass app to activate plug and charge. There is that first barrier to entry. It's not turned on by default unless they've changed that for new model years. But you do have to go into your Ford Pass app, and I think it's under Jace, help me out. Thank you, Connected Services. But you're saying if you have that turned on in your Ford Pass app, you pull up to a Tesla Supercharger, it should be as easy as plug in the adapter, plug it into your truck. It's initiating.
Yeah, it was super easy.
Okay.
Mr. Tom Suburbs has a question here. He's saying, asking, he's curious if the Tesla app will recommend only chargers compatible with Fords or show all V3 and newer superchargers. So actually, technically, you could do both. But as soon as you add your Lightning, it will only show those that are compatible with your vehicle. You literally add your model. You can, I think, put what your range would be, your overall range. And basically it will only show you what is available. So that is a, distinction, but I think technically in the Tesla app, you could then pretend you have a Tesla and then I think you could see them all, in some way. But yeah, if you add your vehicle, it will only show you currently what is available to your vehicle.
And you do have to check when you're setting up your vehicle if you have your adapter or not. If you don't, it'll only suggest Magic Docks. If you do check it, it'll show you all the V3s that are ready to go.
It's very layered and it can be very confusing. But that's a good point, Joe. And also the same goes for Ford Pass app, the exact same thing. So I don't think you check it per se in the Ford Pass app, do you? I think it just says adapter.
It just shows you. Yep. It just has a warning on it that an adapter is required for those.
But same thing with the Ford Pass app, that it will only show you the ones that are available. So for instance, on that Turnpike, stop, it literally only shows the one going eastbound. It does not have.
Yeah, and I had written down on I'm scribbling out notes here of things I want to make sure we hit. I had scribbled down the Tesla app because when I saw you guys testing out the adapters, I immediately hopped over into I downloaded the Tesla app just to see, and it was a nice touch that Tesla put like "Welcome to Ford owners" or whatever
Yeah, that
right
was
on
cool.
their home screen. So nice touch there from Elon and the gang. But I was going to go on to say, like, it would seem they made it pretty foolproof on their end within their app, because they immediately prompt you, like, tell us what you're driving so that we can make your life easier and only send you to the right places. So just a positive shout out there, because, obviously we're not familiar with their app. And the last thing they want in this transition moment is to have confused Ford drivers cluttering up stations that they don't belong at. And so I think Tesla saw that one coming, and they were like, we're going to make this really easy. And so I appreciated that, even though I didn't get to actually make use of it. But I would recommend, I'm actually going to poll you two. Does Ford want us downloading the Tesla app, or do they want us trying to utilize this service without the Tesla app on our phone? I know that's a tricky question, but I'm just going to throw it out there because I already fell for it. I already downloaded the Tesla app. That just seemed like the thing to do if I'm going to use a Tesla supercharger.
I've had the Tesla app since I got my truck because the Magic Ducks shortly came out after I got my truck. So I've had that. I can't say Ford would want one way or the other. I think they want to give us options on purpose. Like if one person likes to do the subscription and get the cheaper, I was paying 51 cents a kilowatt at that charger in Jersey. If I did the subscription, I would have been paying 41, and it would have been a little more even keel with most of the EA stations. So I don't think they prefer either or. I think it's more of a they want to give us as many options as possible.
I think it's like the CarPlay thing, right? Like, it's just we're going to give you the options. You can choose what you want, even though we're using Android Automotive OS, right? Like, we're going to give folks the option, that way everybody can, just do what they want to do. And I think that is key, and just like the decision in general to open up to, to take the lead and literally, make a deal with Tesla. Like, that is just another way Ford's like, look, we just need more options. We recognize this weak point in our charging, infrastructure within our brand, and this is something that we can do for our customers to help in their daily lives. Even though we know, like, most people anyway don't fast charge more than 90%. But
yeah, I was gonna say 93% charge at home, I think was the number.
Yeah, it's very low, but it's important. I mean, it really is. I think a lot of people think like I just said, when we went to go buy our Mach-E, in February of 2021, we're like, can we make it up north? Because even if we had a Power Boost hybrid, right? But like, we still wanted both cars to be able to make that road trip, and we didn't even know if it was possible. And we looked it up and we're like, oh, it is possible. And that changes your mind of, should we go all EV, or should we even buy an EV period, or should we not? Even though it's kind of like not the way to look at it, but it's important to buyers. So that's what we have to do a good job of framing.
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, Joe. I just want to tack on to what he said. I really needed to shout Ford out for how hyper focused they are on the customer experience. They want to make sure we are not stranded. We are not complaining about charging. We're not, freaking out about if we're going to make it to the next charger. That, like, when I bought the truck, I don't know if they're still doing it, 3 years of complete coverage. So if I run out on the side of the road, they're going to pick my truck up and charge me, bring me to a charger, or they're going to charge me on the side of the road for free. Like, that was like so settling to somebody coming from a gas truck to, everyone's myths of, well, EVs run out of battery on the side of the road. And then they just continue to push the customer experience as their main mission. And it makes me want to stay with Ford for the rest of, my driving career until I get too old and I get my license taken away.
Ford, or perhaps Lincoln, maybe.
Right, yes. I'll be switching to Lincoln by then, I think.
That's my plan. I might be a 40-year-old Lincoln driver. I don't care.
Oh, God.
I love them, man. That new Nautilus is
Yeah, those are gorgeous. I agree. Um, looks like Marty Meek also mentioned that Better Route Planner has already added it to their app. I know that was one of the apps that we initially asked when we were at the Jersey station.
Chargeway as well, I know, is working on
What does it say?
adding very soon. I think like really soon they plan on adding. So I've actually, Patrick taught me a little trick before. As an addition to the Ford Pass and the Tesla app, you could pretend you sort of had a Tesla within the Chargeway app. And just this was before we knew only select V3s would be available, but you could literally find every V3, only V3 around you. And so that was kind of nice for me too, to just before everything went down to kind of see what potentially we would be looking at.
So in the changing landscape, obviously we're in a window now where we don't have the adapters. They're going to start being shipped out. So there is time for things to shift a little bit. But my question is, as it stands now, is there a one-stop shop that will show you Electrify America, ChargePoint? Like, is a Better Route Planner kind of shaping up to be where a Ford owner should go to plan a road trip and have all of the chargers at their disposal?
Your Ford Pass app does both of those. I mean, there's no like go-to because everyone's different. Like I've tried using a Better Route Planner when I drove to Chicago, and I just didn't like the interface when I'm driving on the screen, so I switched back to the native navigation in the truck. I've been preaching since day one, trust the truck nav, and neither of you use it. So it's just you can't say that like this is going to be the way you want to do it. It's really your preference. Hopefully that preference catches on and gets their information, their data up to date. But it's just personal preference. You're not gonna find one better than the other yet. It's still building.
Yeah, again, options.
Yeah,
I think that's key.
Well, I think we have run out of things to talk about in regards to the NACS adapter, but to put a button on it, a very exciting time to be a Ford EV owner. If you're on the fence about buying a Ford EV, do it now before June because you get the free $230 adapter. It will be free.
Great
June.
deals right now. There really are some amazing deals.
Huge incentives on the Lightning and the Mach-E right now.
Yeah.
Well, I went to get work done at the dealership, and I just, for fun, I'm always kind of hoping to see that prices have dropped on the Mach-Es, and then maybe I'll convince my wife to buy one or something. I don't know. And so I was looking at the Mach-Es. Like yeah, just something, not to be specific or anything.
Right. It'll happen. She'll just steal your truck one day, I promise.
Yeah.
Oh, no, she's petrified of that whole machine. But they had no window stickers on any of the Mach-Es. And a guy, when you're walking around in a car a lot, it doesn't take long for someone to approach you and say, "What are you doing?" And so I asked about it, and he said they had slashed prices on every single Mach-E. Which, again, there's a glass half full, a glass half empty. But as the end consumer, and for people watching this live stream that, again, might be on the fence, that's good news. Because the Mach-E does qualify for a $3,000 tax credit point of sale, or no? Did it? It's
I
not
think
on
it's
there
gone
anymore?
completely now. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's gone.
Yeah,
but don't go on
either that or close. I don't remember.
Yeah. But I mean, you can get it, with incentives, and you're getting it essentially, and which is almost better in a sense for the end consumer because not everybody qualifies, So in a sense, they're kind of giving it to you without you getting it from the government.
Right.
Yeah.
One of our Northeast Lightning Club members had sold his truck when the resale prices were super high, and he just bought another one. Dude walked out with a Lariat at $58,000. I'm like, this is some crap.
It's not just us, though, guys. It's not just us. There's lots of other people in our boat with other brands too. I just keep telling myself that.
That's true. And I wasn't going to bring this up because I feel like I always harp on this, and you guys are good about telling me, like, just look forward, can't change the past. But yes, I mean, the prices that I'm seeing some people nabbing Lightnings for, it makes my hair turn gray.
There we go.
But we also got to, kind of be on the first wave, especially you guys. I was kind of second wave, so I guess that's the premium you pay for being the first Lightning in your neighborhood or in your town or in your state. And so I asked myself, was it worth it? And I think it was. But I'm happy for all these people, like the guy on Twitter, Benjamin Westby. Maybe he's watching. Hi, Ben. These people are getting Lightnings for a steal, which I'm just happy to see, because I think that's the Lightning that we all fell in love with, and the pricing that we all fell in love with back when they announced it. So it's great that Ford has come full circle in a way on that. What did Law and Order say?
Oh, he was marking the hockey prices there.
Interesting. Okay, well, if I can keep my head straight, a few other things that we had written down. Do we want to talk about the Flash? Because admittedly, Ford announced a new trim of the Lightning a few months ago, 6 months, 4 months, called the Flash, and it was kind of this casserole of all of the most requested options of all the Lightning orders that they had gotten up to that point. So you've got the 15-inch touchscreen, you've got the extended range battery, cloth seats, leather seats.
Yes, cloth seats.
Cloth seats, which I have and love. I'm not looking down on cloth seats.
Nope.
Is it Blue Cruise capable?
Yes.
And
there you go.
And phone is the key.
And so, off the top of your head, do you guys remember the pricing? Or I guess the reason we're bringing up the Flash,
70-ish.
Okay.
Yeah,
which
it was between the Lariat. It was between the Lariat and the XLT.
Okay.
The one I think Chris Bow had listed was like 73, 74-ish.
Okay. Which keeps it within the EV tax credit, whatever the current iteration of that
and that
is.
one had like 3,200 in options on it. So I think, I think it's about 69.70 right on the dot.
Ooh.
A base Flash.
And so that's why we bring it up, because one of our viewers right now, Chris, hi Chris, shout out to Chris, found one at his local dealership just on display. Is it for sale? Or
I don't think so.
No.
But really cool to see in person, and exciting to know that Ford is getting creative and starting to think what other packages do we want to put together, parentheses, hopefully something more off-road oriented. But so what do you guys think of the Flash? And like you guys were talking before we went live about kind of where the Flash is at. So should people be expecting to see those at their dealership soon, or what's the situation with the Flash?
I know they debuted them. They really built those based off of what the customers like in the trucks. It was really to try to get every point that everybody wanted without blowing the bank and going up to that $90,000. Oh my God. I like the word platinum. Thank you. I was going to say premium for some reason.
That too.
I think that was a good move on Ford's part. I don't like that the passenger side doesn't have a fake charging door. I'm very symmetrical on everything I do.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that bothers me a little bit.
So does it bother you though that cars have a fuel door on one side and they don't have one on the other side?
Ooh.
Because I'll be honest, that's what changed my mind. Somebody said that and they were like, "Well, this was
I never thought of it
that way."
Day.
That's fair.
Early Lightning days, and they were like, "Why does it have both?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I like that too." And then they were like, "Well, there's no fuel door on the other side." I was like,
never even thought.
Blew
of that.
my mind. I know.
Yeah, that's a good. I'm stumped. All right, I'm done.
We'll talk tomorrow after you sleep on that one. We'll talk about it.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely reaching out to as many customers as possible, trying to get as many options to them as possible without breaking the bank.
Yeah.
So it was a good move on their part. I don't know if any of them are on sale yet. I know they're 2024s, so I think they're held up at the moment. But once they start pumping out, I bet you we'll see a lot on the road.
I think that's going to be like the go-to trim. From what we've heard, allegedly, there may not be a Lariat standard range trim. My AirPod just fell out. There may not be a Lariat standard range trim. So if that's the case, I think instantly Flash jumps up as the go-to buy. I mean, unless, you really want to jump up for the Lariat. I'm partial. I do love my Lariat. These were the first Lariat F-150s that we bought. We always had XLTs before, lower just because we didn't have any money. So we had to buy a lower trim, but at the time. So, I really do think that will be the go-to trim based on everything that they add. And you can, if leather's a big thing for you, easy add, no problem at all. I think you're literally just losing like ventilated seats and, the sunroof, I think. And And really, that's about it. I mean, it's a great choice for a lot of people.
Yeah, it puts me in a tricky situation in that I think people that are passionate about the Lightning and have been excited about it for years had already settled into one of the 4 trims that were available. And so it's tricky because I mean, I guess if you have someone in a Pro or an XLT who's like, oh, I really want that extended range battery, theoretically, they could do a swap like Sergio did. He went from his Lariat to his Platinum. But yeah, I guess I hope that someone who's new to Lightning research can appreciate that the Flash is like the beautiful, like golden egg of the best parts of every other trim. I hope that the dealerships, I hope they find that information somehow, whether from watching this podcast or hearing it from a dealer. Because yeah, it's the perfect trim. I think if I could swap with the exact same monthly payment that I have right now for that, I mean, it's a great truck. And another testament, like what Joe was saying, to the fact that Ford is listening to customers and looking at what we want and literally baking it up and handing it to us.
Yeah, I think that would have been where I gravitated to if that was existent when I was ordering.
Mm-hmm. It would have been a close call for us. I'm a leather person. Weirdly, can't really explain to you why, but I just like leather for some weird reason. But yeah, I mean, I think I would have probably done a cat skin sort of thing and bought that, thrown leather on it. But I will say, now that I've owned ventilated seats, I cannot speak highly enough about ventilated seats. We never had a vehicle with them. Wow. Like it, and we don't even it's not even hot, in Ohio, like relatively, but like humid days, like it's just,
you're sticky. You want to cool off. Oh, dude, it's so much better. It's better than the AC.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's great. Can't say good enough things.
So Marty said he added leather seats to his 2023 Lightning for $150. You're gonna have to send me a link to a video or something, Marty, because I like my cloth seats, but yeah, I mean, I would love to do some takeoffs there.
You just take a steamer and you can shrink them right out. I mean, you can make them look like really, really, really nice.
I think you overestimate my craftsmanship, and you can reference my YouTube channel for all the projects I've done that have not gone according to plan. But speaking of other trims of Lightning, another softball. The Lightning switchgear debuted since our last podcast. And so I don't think I've even really gotten to pick either of your brains about it. So I'll kick it to both of you, but obviously, I mean, based on my purchases, you guys have probably gleaned that I love that big wheel, big tire Raptor look. And switchgear is just an EV demonstrator, but boy, it looks mean. It looks so good. So
that's funny you say you like the Raptor look of it. That's actually Raptor tires that they have on it.
Unmistakable.
It's amazing. Jason and I got to see it in person in Chicago, and
that's right.
And it was still covered in mud from King of the Hammers in California, where they first took it out.
Appropriately so.
First public events. Switchgear sounded awful inside.
Fair. I mean, off-road wheels and tires in an EV. Yeah. You're probably going to get some more road noise. And, I mean, they're rattling over dirt. I mean, yeah, that I would take that as to be expected.
They replaced all the seats with racing seats in there, the 5-point harnesses and everything like that. So it's not made for comfort. It's not made for quietness. It's made for launching off whatever that was, a 2-3 foot jump that Patrick was crazy.
At least, yeah.
I would love to be in a truck when that happens, but I've never been in one, and I don't know if I would like it afterwards. Like, but that was really cool. The whole thing, the custom hand thing, the handbrake inside, the fenders are all on the outside were attached to the normal body. So they didn't do anything to the frame. They didn't do anything to the battery. It's a stock Lightning. I think it was an XLT. All they did was added looks like a Lariat tailgate to it, and then did the handbrake and the body flare and stuff and the tires. But I think it was amazing.
And I would imagine I've been doing a lot of research, as you guys have probably inferred over the last couple weeks, about lift, level, suspension, all of that stuff. I would imagine there's also some Raptor suspension happening under there, unless you saw it and they explicitly told you that it's the stock Lightning suspension.
No, the suspension was completely custom for the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's not on the market yet.
Well, and where was I going with that? I would bet that it was the standard range battery. You know, if they're going for pure speed and if they're trying to jump this thing, I wonder if they wanted less weight. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
I don't remember.
It was an interesting Mod Podge of trims, sort of, because when they were I was looking at, it was like a 312A, but it was actually like a Lariat standard range sort of thing. So, but I'm not. That's what I thought. Max saying extended range battery. I mean, maybe I can't remember, but yeah, it's a sick truck regardless. And it was cool. It was a bigger pack. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, it was awesome to see in person. I mean, it had a presence to it. It really did.
We got to meet the head engineer for the project. I forget how to say his name. Was it Stry or? I'm probably saying it wrong.
Yeah,
he was absolutely brilliant when it came to any of those technical specs. Kurt and I were picking his brain. It was really cool to hear him talk about how he ended up where he is, and how that project came to where it was. And he's worked on I forget what they call the van, and then the Mach-E 1400. Super van, and the Mach-E 1400. He's worked on all three of those now. So it was really cool to like hear what they've learned from the other trims and what they've moved into their production lines. So, you know, you got the Mach-E Rally that's coming out now. You know, that they took what they learned with the Mach-E 1400 and put that stuff into these newer models. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a switchgear variant down the road, but obviously it's just in infancy now.
Like you would buy the parts, maybe not like they do like the Shelby, you know, F-150s and stuff. You know, you don't necessarily go out and like buy it direct like that. You know, it's sort of a dealer done, you know, install sort of thing. But I could definitely see it coming down the road. It'll be fascinating to see kind of what variants. You know, obviously we saw Flash this year, maybe a Tremor or something like that. Eventually, I know Joe, you're really
Platinum Black.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Platinum Black.
Platinum Black. Right. Yeah.
Platinum Black. Yep. Rally, like you just mentioned, for Mach-E. I mean, I think that's huge. You know, so it'll be fun to kind of see what they decide to do with it. But yeah, switchgear was really, really cool.
I think it's an important first step to know, because we've all gotten to talk to people at Ford, and it all starts with a conversation. And so even as you're having the conversation and you're like, even if they love this idea or whatever, like it's so many other conversations and iterations and engineers before it hits the street or goes on sale.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I think, a reassuring first step of like, okay, the conversations are happening. And they were promising enough that people dedicated time and energy and sweat and money to putting this amazing thing out into the world. And then the last step is just, we as a community, I think we responded very, very positively to it. And hopefully they see that and go, okay, this is something that catches people's eyes. Mac go ahead.
Well, I think I was just going to say, I think another huge point that they have, and really Jim himself has tried to, you know, hone in on and make clear, is that they really truly are learning from these demonstrators and putting what they're learning, you know, from these demonstrators into the consumer vehicles. You know, there are things that, you know, they need. Like I remember, I think it was Jim or somebody mentioned NHRA, and I thought that was fascinating that they need quick discharge batteries in NHRA, like very, very quick. And that is something that they are using an NHRI that they can put, you know, perhaps into a consumer, you know, format. I don't know exactly how that would apply to a consumer format, but I'm sure they'll find ways, and, you know, that it can help, or something part of that can help. So they're really trying to hone in on that message that we can take what we learn from this and apply it to, you know, our consumer products, as Porsche has done for years, as Audi has done, right? I mean, I think we see Mercedes, we see these other companies that try to do that.
Yeah, Mac put in the chat that it was getting 0.5. I'm guessing that's miles per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Which is that's why you do a demonstrator, so you can learn these things and address them, I guess.
Yep.
But truly, I won't talk too much about this, but that is one of the things that's keeping me up at night about putting these bigger wheels on my Lightning. Is how it's not a question of if, how much efficiency and range am I going to lose. So I'm willing to fall on that sword for all of you that are watching, to learn that information, and then that way you'll see all the mistakes I make, and and maybe then you'll be able to at least know, do I want around town getting 1.2 miles per kilowatt hour? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But Joe, I'll actually have to hook you up. One of the Midwest Lightning Club members, he's actually runs the Chicago area, has Raptor wheels on his as well.
Nice.
He said,
are they 35s?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
He said it took a hit.
37.
Sorry. He said it definitely took a hit, but I'll get you his contact info so you can link up with him and figure out what you want to do.
Please do, because I mean, we are on a podcast about the Lightning ownership experience, and I feel free to jump in the chat if you've had this experience before. But anytime you want to do an upgrade, the dealership or the shop or whoever you're dealing with, they basically won't even have the conversation because they're so nervous that they're going to encounter a huge barrier. And like, I have a shop in my area. They do custom stuff and tons of lifts and levels. And so I called, and he admitted, like, this would be the first Lightning we've done any work on, which again is cool, but also this is what comes with being an early adopter. So yeah, they said they can't put 35s on a. They said even if the 2-inch level you cannot. And the universe is saying, stop rambling on about your 35-inch wheels. So once I get that done,
I had heard that it's tough to fit. Are those 18s or 17s wheels?
They're Raptor takeoffs, so I'm gonna say 17s.
I think they're 17s. 17 by 35 probably. I had heard that people struggled to put anything small. I don't know if it's anything smaller than 18 or anything smaller than 17 on the Lightning because it struggled to clear the calipers. Now, I will say that can be fixed in a variety of ways, right? With offset, wheel spacers. So I think there are ways, obviously a level if you want to go that, far, or lift. But I can't remember if Mitchell had, or was it Matt Mitchell's, what he had exactly to make them fit, but it seemed like he had spacers on them because they sat pretty far out.
We should have them on.
The offset was pretty intense.
Yeah. We should just have them on and show his truck. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, we should.
Is my connection okay?
Yeah,
you can hear me. You can see me.
No,
okay.
Yeah.
So we wanted to briefly touch on, this is a Ford Lightning podcast, but tomorrow there's a big announcement from a different manufacturer. The Rivian will be announcing their R2, which is their slightly smaller SUV all-electric offering. Every picture I've seen just makes it look like an R1S thus far. They're being very stingy with the materials. But I think this is a nice segue. We can use this as a segue into T3, which is obviously Ford's next big kind of upcoming teaser announcement. So I'll be at work tomorrow, unfortunately, but will either of you be tuning into the R2 reveal? Are they streaming it?
Yeah,
or
do we know what time it is? I'm not even sure. Is there a specific time?
There is a specific time. I don't remember what. I want to say 1 p.m. Pacific, or I could be wrong.
I will probably. There's Formula One on, so I might have to watch both at the same time or something. But I will try. I will try to watch it for sure wherever I am. Maybe I might be on my phone or something like that. But yeah, no, definitely, I want to see it. I don't think we'll necessarily be putting in a reservation, but I'm very, very excited to see, what they do. I love Rivian. If there was another brand that we would purchase, it probably would be Rivian, that or Porsche, one of the two. Mm-hmm. But I'm super impressed with what they've done, and I think the R2 is going to be, like, if it's anything like the R1S, just smaller. it's going to be killer. I mean, I don't know why you would look at a Model Y after that. You know, I mean, to be completely honest, I mean, unless that fits your lifestyle better, but it's going to be hard to pass up it looks like a true sort of SUV crossover, you know, size and shape. And I think that's a really like that Bronco Sport type, you know, look. I think I see so many Bronco Sports here. It's crazy. Like it's crazy. Yeah. And if you could bring those down to, you know, like a price of like, if you can bring those down to a price of like, you know, a Bronco Sport, but EV and even, you know, you're lower almost than Model Y at that point, like it's going to be tough for anybody else to, you know, keep up. But I think it's going to be tough for Rivian to produce them too. So
real quick, Adam Carlson just asked the best people in the world about the Euro Lightnings, which are the Norwegian Lightnings. Jace and I were the two that got to bring Lightning to Norway in the press event. And that's really awesome that you, Adam, brought that up to us. They're getting retrofits from Ford in Germany to move the charging port to the passenger side. I think that's regulation over there.
Not regulation, just easier to, I guess, for the retrofit process itself. Per Gunnar said, it's just easier. There's a variety of reasons, but I don't think it's regulated. I think it's just better for their market and better for the retrofit itself.
And they have to be CCS2 over there, not CCS1. So it's a totally different setup. Also, the truck isn't allowed to output as much power as ours are in the United States. So they did have to fix that as well.
And standard range battery only, which is key.
Exactly. So there were a lot of tweaks that they had to do to bring those over to Norway. But it's still the best truck on the market, in my personal opinion. And from what I've seen over in Norway, the owners that have them are loving them.
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, just since we're going down this rabbit hole, hi, Corey, by the way. I mean, let's just say fast forward 2 years or whatever, and your local Ford dealer could offer a retrofit that moves the port to the other side.
This is one of those things where I say, move on, Joe. It's not happening.
Oh.
But no.
Oh, and that's fine. Yeah. Well, I guess my question is, would that even solve the Tesla Supercharger issues that we addressed earlier? I don't think that it would, because it's still not quite long enough.
Not fully. I mean, it would solve the not taking up 2 spaces potentially, but it wouldn't solve I mean, the cable is just it's not long enough feasibly, you know, the way it is now. I mean, the way I look at it, pull through chargers everywhere you go. That should be all over.
Somebody that tows a 36-foot camper, please put pull through.
Yeah, and then it doesn't matter where you put the port. You can put the port wherever the heck you want. You know, I mean, I think I understand that right now it makes, you know, the way we're doing it, it makes sense. You're off to the side, you know, charging at a Walmart parking lot. I get it. But I do not see that as the future. I truly, truly don't. I think we are going to see the gas station style. And that may come with increased charging speeds, right? Like, now it's not necessarily the most feasible because people are sitting there for 20, 30 minutes charging, but eventually people are going to be sitting there for 5-10 minutes. So you're really close to gas times then where you can have that flow where people are coming in and coming out, and it makes sense. I understand that. It doesn't necessarily right now, but I really do believe that is where we are headed. We're not going to be sitting off to the side just, you know, chilling.
There was a charging station that just opened up in New York last week. That has can pump out 500 kilowatts an hour.
Is that the Google one that you're talking about? The Google funded one?
I think so. Yeah,
Gravity. I think they're called.
So I mean, if our vehicles get to the point where we're well over the 800 volt packs, and our vehicles can handle 500 kilowatts, you're looking at gas station times. You're looking at 5 to 10 minutes to charge that entire thing. Honestly, I like the fact that I can just plug it and go inside and do my business and come out and it's done. Like, I don't need it faster than it is right now, personally, because I mean I have 2 young kids. You know, that's a hassle in and of itself trying to get them into the bathroom. So I'm completely content with it right now. But it's definitely going that way. That is the holdup for a lot of people when I talk to them about switching over to electric is it takes too long to charge. They've done no research. They just told what it is. So
talking points.
Being able to gloat a 5 or 10 minute charge is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, you know, these potential futures of charging, you know, we were talking about the R2 And I think you might be asking yourself, why bring that up on this podcast? But I think it's, I forget if it's Kyle Connor or if it's another YouTuber, that, it's the thing to remember is that competition is always good, and so Rivian's going to bring this slightly more compact, off-road capable, all-electric SUV. Maybe you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
It's, I'm sure it's already on Ford's radar, but either if the R2 is hyper successful or there's a lot of interest, I think it's just important that someone puts one out there, because then it'll get everybody else kind of moving. Because like you said, Jace, it looks really compelling, especially when you compare it to what else is already out there. Because Ford, they sold the electric Explorer in Europe yet? Is that like officially on the street?
No, I think it's like June-ish is
Yeah,
where
it's
we're
not out
looking at,
yet. No,
from what I've
Okay.
heard. I think it's June.
but Americans are one of our biggest draws to vehicles is SUVs. For a while there in the early 2000s, it was, hey, don't buy big SUVs, don't waste so much gas, blah, blah, blah. They're not efficient. And then we kept buying them, and they continue to be one of the best-selling types of vehicles in the country, behind the F-150. So it would behoove Ford to move it into an SUV in America, but it can't be the Explorer that's in Europe. I'm taller.
Yeah,
I'm taller than that thing. That's not gonna, that wouldn't work for my family. My kids will be out of legroom by the time they're 5 in the back. So they have to make it so it matches the American way. Unfortunately, it's our friend Kevin in the comments there. Everything's bigger in Texas. Everything's bigger in America, really. And that's why those just don't work here, unfortunately.
it's a big country. I think a lot of people try to compare Europe and the United States, and I just don't think they really realize how big the United States is. Like, it's a big country. Like, there's a lot of land in between there, So, I think we're just, and we're a newer country. We've built up, infrastructure a little bit differently than they have over there. Again, probably due to all the space that we have over there. Is it the best, most efficient? Should we maybe do a little bit better? Sure. But I think, it is what it is. And, the companies naturally are going to respond to what customers are buying. They have to. They have no other choice but to. So I think the R2, to kind of, maybe close out that topic, I think the R2 fits perfectly in the niche that, most of America is looking for. And I think maybe not even niche, but, that specific thing. And I think Ford definitely, really, I think honestly, kind of Ford started this in a certain way with the Bronco Sport. Like, I think that was brilliant. I know it's ICE, but brilliant move. It's a cheap unibody construction vehicle that it's not, it's a, I think the 1.8 liter engine in the smaller one, 3-cylinder, I believe. So, it's not overly powered, but you're just not seeing people buy that vehicle for that, and I see our R2 being a little bit similar, but the electric version of that.
Well, and speaking about affordability and again, putting a button on R2, they're touting it as going to be their more entry level, more affordable offering. And so anything that brings the average price of EVs in the United States down, hopefully, is a good thing. So
absolutely
interested to see what they debut tomorrow. I don't have anything else scribbled out on my notes other than I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it yet, but apparently Jim Farley talked to Jimmy Fallon about his Lightning, so I learned that Jimmy Fallon drives a Lightning.
And Kelly Clarkson as well.
Oh, you beat me to it.
Sorry.
I was going to say it too.
I'm a huge fan, so
I would love to get one of them into a Lightning Club and just come to one event. That would be the coolest thing ever.
Cool. And they both talk about how much they love them, though, too. It's not like, Kelly's been on the podcast as well, and she loves that truck. It's not just, Ford, supplied us a Lightning. I mean, it's like they love
it's her every day. Yeah. Yep.
Well,
and Jimmy Fallon has a popcorn maker in his. Come on, Joe. Let's go.
Right. Well, I didn't
video
get to
games,
listen to it, but I saw the tweets about it, and I didn't get a chance to watch, so I didn't want to just take what someone said in a tweet and assume it was true. But in the back though, is it in the front? Like, I'm having trouble. Popcorn machines are huge.
So I listened to the episode. I think he actually said it was his old gas one that he had that had the popcorn maker in it. I don't think he's put it in the Lightning yet. But obviously, I mean, there's 3 different spots we can put it in the truck. Whatever fits your boat.
Yeah.
I've had coffee makers in the front of mine. I had a friend of mine bake cookies in the front of his. Like one of our Lightning Club members made bread in the front of his. Pete, who was on here before. You can do whatever you want with those things.
We've
man.
seen it all. Shrimp in a maki frunk. We've seen it all. I do really quick. I had to bring it up. Oh my god, it's my favorite. I did want to really quickly get to Patriotic Tesla's question that he had.
Yeah.
I promised we would answer. So a couple days ago, Patriotic Tesla asked us on Twitter, "Is there any way to force or trigger an OTA update?" In a Tesla, we reboot the MCU, and sometimes that will get you an incoming update. We'll listen for the answers. So kind of the answers to that is no. There is not. That is not really a way to probably get your update. Not to my knowledge. I've never really experienced this. Sometimes I've done a reset just to see, but the best advice that I have as far as owners that want to get an OTA or think they maybe possibly have one coming in or they're waiting on one, go into that software update screen every single day. Go into it, prompt it, see if it'll pop up. Keep your 12 volt, nice and healthy. That's another one. Now that we've got the right sensor on there, I think I've noticed a huge improvement on successful OTAs. Just an incredible difference on complaints, that they weren't going through. And so now we're really, once people are getting those sensors, it really seems to be moving pretty smoothly. But that's really the best answer is just keep checking every day. Keep that 12 volt healthy, starting your vehicle every day. If you don't use it every day, just do a quick remote start in the garage. There's nothing wrong with that. Or in your driveway or whatever. But yeah, no really way to kind of, reboot and kind of kick it in. But that's my best advice. Just go to that software update.
In the early days before that, sensor on the 12 volt was switched out. It used to be remove your 12 volt, like just take off one side and put it back on. I had to do it a couple times. And I think I had an issue with the frunk too. It was getting stuck. And I had to disconnect and put it back on. But it doesn't do that anymore. I really haven't had any other issues.
And you could do a sync reset, hold the 2 outside buttons. I think it's seek right and volume down. Volume down. You could hold those 2 and do, if you're experiencing some bugs, but yeah, as far as like pulling in a software update, I don't really think you'll get very far there. But if you do experience some bugs, that's definitely a great way to kind of, reboot stuff really quickly. A lot of people don't know about that trick, and that's a good one. Instead of, you can try that, and then your next step is, like Joe said, kind of unplug that terminal for a second.
Well, and just to touch on this, like, I think, if I remember correctly, Patriotic Tesla is a relatively new Lightning owner, like based on his tweets.
Correct.
And I shared on this podcast and via my tweets when I was a new Lightning owner, frustrations because you see people tweeting about their update and you go, well, why didn't I get my update? So in case that's what it's born out of, I want to be sure that I convey, like, I was in the same spot that you're in, and there can be some confusion. It's unfortunately not like an iPhone. Now, all 3 of us on the podcast are team iPhone, and those software updates go live at the exact same moment for everybody. But Jace and Joe over the last year have educated me that every different trim and configuration of the Lightning requires individualized attention for each software update. 'Cause I went months and I thought my truck was broken because I wasn't getting these updates. But sure enough, the past 2 months, updates have been coming, very consistently. I just got that one today. So my advice to you was just going to be patience, trust the truck, I guess, to borrow Joe's phrase. The truck knows, as long as you're hooked up to, I think, do you even need to be hooked up to the Wi-Fi at your house? Is that even it'll just magically do it?
Most updates actually don't require Wi-Fi. A lot of them will it's like a lot of them don't require Wi-Fi, at least recently. So it'll use cellular for the most part, or if you have Wi-Fi, it'll use that too, but you don't have to have it.
Yeah, but
real
trust
quick, USA EV asked a couple questions about that 12 volt again. So mine was completely healthy as well. I did it anyways, and I actually noticed a difference in how fast I get the updates now. I used to take a couple days, but I was behind Jace. I'm usually on a 24-hour cycle behind him now. And then Marty Meek there said, get the recall done. He's not wrong. The recalls are only up to a certain date. So if you don't get it done before that date, they're not going to do it for you. So if it exists, go get it done. There's no reason not to. It's free parts from Ford.
And it's quick. It's nothing, crazy. I mean, I've even seen, this is probably the most of all of them that I've seen a lot of dealers do this with mobile service. So that's becoming huge and popular, but yeah, I mean, I would get the sensor done. Why not? But really all it does is it kind of halted your successful installation. So, you were really seeing a lot of people saying, why didn't it, my process was interrupted. Why didn't it install? Well, the 12-volt sensor was basically, reporting incorrectly. Now that could go both ways though. That was the funny part, right? Like the 12-volt sensor could have been under 80% and the update still went through because it over reported, right? So like it went both ways. I saw it on both of our trucks where like I knew the 12-volt wasn't high enough, but yet it went through. On the new sensor, we should not see any more of those issues. It should be fairly consistent. I think they're working on some changes to the 12-volt stuff. I don't know if that's happened yet and exactly what that will entail, but I know that they're kind of working on, switching things up and changing some things. And as we've noticed with the flash trim, right, we're seeing all sorts of fun changes and stuff. So, stay tuned. But yeah, if you have it, even if your 12-volt is healthy, go get it done. No reason not to. It's free. It's quick. Like I said, a lot of dealers are doing mobile service, so I'd do it. Do you all have the charge percentage number on your clusters? No, nobody has that. That is just a 24, thing that we were lucky enough to see from Chris. But yeah, nobody has it to my knowledge.
He's asking something else. He's not asking the speed. He's asking the charge percentage number on the dial. I have that. I think Jace has that as well. So do you have that now?
I don't think I do.
23s.
Okay, yeah. So it was an early access program originally. I think it's starting to roll out now to the rest of the customers. But it's not on there yet.
And it's coming in a different update now. It was in like a Frunk Chimes update. Now it's in, I think, 6.5 or 6.8. Don't quote me. It's one of those two, I'm pretty sure. Yep. But it will come. But yeah, that's not quite to everybody. I think they paused it for a little bit to change which OTA was coming in and some of the order of things. I think, fixing some bugs. But yeah, it will come. But it's kind of getting back to Joe's point. If we have some new people here from before, the way that updates roll out for both really Mach-E and Lightning is the earlier models seem to get the updates first. Now, the only way that sort of goes against that is like we saw with the 24 model year Lightning, they will sometimes install some of those updates at the factory. So, and that's all that goes into why it takes so long and there's so many trim levels and why, it takes a while to get some of these OTAs to the other trucks. I know some people are like, well, I'm expecting the Tesla experience. And I totally understand that, but the Lightning was not built the way a Tesla or a Rivian is. It just wasn't.
Apples to oranges. You got a software company that controls the whole thing versus someone that has 100 manufacturers coming in.
And Jim's been really honest about this. He really has. He's been, he's said not to just us privately, but to everybody. He said, this is what we're working on for Gen 2, right? These are the things that we want to change. We know they need to change. They have to go to a supplier to get, a lot of these code changes done. Then they have to do their own testing. The supplier does their own testing. There's so many hoops to it right now and so much red tape. And that is exactly why, they're trying to eliminate that stuff for second gen. So I understand that it can be frustrating, but, just hang tight and OTAs will come. I think everybody, anybody you talk to, they just want the OTA. It's just like everybody wants the OTA. I don't care what kind of device it is, car, phone, whatever. You see somebody with one and you're like, wait, why didn't I get it? I want that one, So I used to do the beta iOS programs and all that. I get it. But, just remain patient and know that there's sometimes not really a rhyme or reason. Justin has gotten OTAs on his truck that I haven't gotten on mine, actually still to this day. So, but we're different trim levels, we're different things. So, some people have Blue Cruise, some people don't. So you might not get the Blue Cruise, update that somebody posts. You got to kind of remember that, So lots of reasons that go into it,
and
but
everyone will be behind Jace. Just for the
I'm just obsessed with checking. I think that's what people are like, how do you get them so quick? And I'm like, because honestly, I go out to that damn truck every day and I push software updates. And if I'm sitting at a stoplight, I'm gonna say, is there a software software update coming through? I'm just like that.
Yeah. But, circling back to Jace's advice, trust your truck, check in your infotainment, and if it says that you're ready for one or you're going to be delivered when you will, it's just tricky as a new owner learning where your place in line is. So now I've learned where I'm at kind of in relation to Jace and Joe and the other people I follow on Twitter, but obviously it's kind of like Christmas morning when you're a kid. It's like if you're counting down the days till Christmas, it feels like an eternity. Just forget that it's December and you're going to wake up one morning and it'll be Christmas and you'll have your OTA. That's what I needed to do for my peace of mind.
Sure. I explained it to my coworker the other day. I'm like, hey, guess what? I just got a new truck out in the parking lot. It just updated itself. Like it's always something new. It makes me very excited about the truck again. It's almost like a refresh of the excitement.
It changes the ownership experience. There's no doubt about it. I mean, even I remember having a Focus ST and like it didn't have OTAs per se, kind of did, but they were like very, very extremely limited. Probably like navigation updates really. And I put CarPlay on it and I did it myself with a fob or a thumb drive, and added the new port. And I mean, just even that, adding those little things, it makes your car feel fresh. It makes your car feel new. Mm-hmm. And now that we can do all of that over the air, I mean, I think it's amazing. But I do think it does add up sometimes to some pent up frustrations or, some confusion on, why exactly it is the way it is. And, we're all learning. I'm still learning, we're all learning, how Ford is doing it. Ford is learning how Ford is doing it. That's the truth of the matter. They would say that as much as I would, I think, that, they are learning how to go about and what the best process is for these things. So, I think again, we'll see a lot of improvements in second gen, but I'm glad that Ford got these out the door. So that way they can see what needs to be improved while also still creating a great product, right? Like, I really, truly believe that. So stay patient. OTAs will come. They're really rolling out quickly now. This is probably the quickest I've seen them start to roll out for like 23s. I'm seeing, I know our friend Eric Rogue had, he loves OTAs. He really wants them. And I saw him get it was like 3 in a week. It's really, really rolling out much quicker. So
I've had multiple of these last 2 or 3 weeks.
Good.
Which always feels good. Like today, this is just not a nitpick. I was at the grocery store. I had driven the truck already today. It said, hey, you're going to get that supercharging update overnight. And I said, great. I stopped the truck, went in, parked at a different store. I have my rear seats folded up and I get this brand new, beautiful animation about checking the back seat for occupants I may be forgetting. And I was like, okay, cool. So that's just a little, it's just a little surprise where you're like, I've never seen that graphic before, but clearly
so that graphic is a yearly graphic. You can actually turn it on so that you only see it every 6 months to a year. But something to that effect.
I guess what I'm getting at is it used to be a bird's eye view and have the seats that it thought things were in, and now it was this side view. Interesting to see how they.
No, so Joe, I use that. I have a 2-month-old now and a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
I've used that since I've gotten the truck. I keep that on. It's been there since day one. It's a rear occupant reminder for the kids.
Well, maybe it looks different on his because he's the 12-inch. That could be.
That's possible. The one you're talking, the overhead one that I see is the seatbelt one. When my 4-year-old likes to unbuckle before I put it in park.
Yes.
The truck likes to let me know that, and I usually whip around and get him back to sleep. But I keep that on. There was a couple stories up here where parents forgot their kids in their car, and unfortunately it didn't end well. And I don't ever want to be that person. So any safety feature that I can turn on to remind myself, I don't normally forget my kids because they won't stop talking to me other than the 2-month-old cries.
Yeah.
But you know, I just it's a peace of mind that I you know, have a reminder, even if somebody drives my truck like my wife, it's a peace of mind that to look back.
I guess it just surprised me because I had my rear seats folded up, so I'm surprised that none of the sensors in the truck knew, like there's no rear seat in the world that you could install with the seats up. So that was just another interesting thing, Jim, if you're watching. There's one small suggestion. If seats are folded up, clearly nobody's back there. But
I don't think there's any sensors in the seats. I think they're only in the seat belts. And
my guess is I think you hit that time limit. You hit either the 6 month or the year, and it sends it to your truck no matter what. It's
you have to turn it off every certain amount of time.
Like keep it on your yearly, or do you want to keep it on or do you want to be reminded a lot? I think so. I never see that message either, but there is like a 6 month to a year thing where all of a sudden you'll see the message and you're like, leave it. I don't want to see it. Or you could be like, Joe, you know, you have kids, you want to see it, you know, so it kind of depends. But it is sort of a thing where you can kind of turn it off, to my knowledge.
Interesting. Did we get a question this week about CarPlay, or am I making that up? Or was I the one asking? I texted you guys asking about CarPlay and the size that it takes up on your screen.
Yes.
Versus, because you, just for new viewers, background, Joe and Jace both have the portrait 15 and a half screen. I have the landscape 12.
Yeah, give me that half-inch. Come on.
Yeah. And I mean, Ford makes the most of it, because they were sending me pictures, and I actually underestimated what a different CarPlay experience we were getting in the two different infotainment systems.
Yeah, I had it on the 12-inch Bronco too. We've gone back and forth between, we had the 12-inch on the Power Boost, then I had the 15.5 on the Mach-E, then I went back to the 12-inch on the Bronco, and then now back to the 15.5. And honestly, I love them both. Like, I was actually thinking about this while I was driving earlier today, because you asked the question, and I'm like, which one do I truly like better? And I can't really answer that question. I will say, after having the Mach-E and the Lightning, I think the Lightning is more usable, or better usable, if that makes sense, than the Mach-E, because of the way it sits. It sits a little bit closer to you. The Mach-E is kind of a little bit like further away and down more. The Lightning is a bit more up and in your peripheral a bit more.
Yeah.
But the 12-inch display is great too, and they've really improved it since, you know, when we had it on our Power Boost. You know, they've really, really improved the CarPlay experience. It used to be all kind of, you know, split up. Now you can kind of full screen it. You know, it's improved quite a bit. But yeah, they're both great. Like I love them. Real quick, I do want to segment though to the new Ford all digital experience. Or all new Ford digital experience. Super amazing. Like the Android Automotive OS that we used on the 25 Explorer, it is mind-blowing, the changes. There's a bunch of specific numbers that they put out, like 5 times better graphics, something like that.
Wow.
You can tell the difference. The hardware it's fluid. There's zero lag whatsoever. We hooked up CarPlay because that was kind of the first thing we wanted to see. You know, what's the CarPlay experience going to be like? Hopefully very similar to what it is now. And honestly, it was like the same, if not better. You know, super, super fluid. So I'm very excited to see where that goes. I don't believe we will see that on 24 Lightning or 24 Mach-E. But we'll see kind of where it goes in the future. And good things are coming, because it was impressive.
Where did you get to experience this, Jace? Was this at the auto show?
Yeah, this was the Chicago Auto Show. Yeah, so they had a 25 Explorer there. We were looking at an ST model, I believe. And they kind of let us. We actually had like a project manager or SME, you know, kind of explain to us, you know, how, you know, some features about it. They were also talking about kind of the car in general, but they touched a lot on the new digital experience. And yeah, we were super impressed, both Justin and I, and there was a couple other people, I think, with us. And it just super, super fluid. Like we were playing with ambient lighting. It's just like instant. There's no delay whatsoever. It's just like your iPhone. It was cool.
So not unreasonable to think that this is the type of digital experience that would be implementing around when T3 gets announced and launched. Is that fair to say that would translate well?
Yeah.
Or, like that's what they would be working with.
Yeah, I think so. I think even maybe, I think it depends on what Ford does, right? Like we could maybe see it in like a 24 or 25 model year Lightning Mach-E thing, possibly. It really depends on where Ford goes. I mean, at that point, we're going to be close to T3, right? So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the Blue Oval opens what 2026, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I think it depends on a lot of things, you know.
estimated as soon near 2025 or 26.
And is that all of Blue Oval City, or is that, you know, some of the because it's a big, you know,
Oh yeah, they're
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
it's huge. So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, since you guys are my resident experts, have we, just to, again, we've talked about the present and the past and now looking to the future. What's the latest we heard? Is there anything on the agenda horizon, anything with T3? An event where we think they might give us an inkling? No. Okay. I'm
Dude,
seeing
I
shakes of
wish.
heads.
Yeah, I
Oh.
wish. I've tried every way to Sunday.
We even tried to ask Jim
Yeah.
face to face. We were sitting in California last
Can we
last
see
year
it right
asking
now?
him.
Maybe like just show us a little.
Yeah.
Show us a picture on your phone. You know
You
you
got a
got it on your
picture,
phone.
right?
Come
Of
on.
course.
No, we
Yeah,
got nothing.
No idea. I mean, I think
Bummer.
the latest we've heard is all stuff from the latest earnings call is kind of, you know, what we heard. You know, and I think there's just a lot of, it depends on where a lot of things go. The economy, where we go with EV adoption, where we go, you know,
Yeah.
just so many, where this year goes with the election. You know, I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that are going to be very telling and very dependent upon what Ford does, right?
What I
Yeah.
didn't know about Ford is actually they have there's a whole department that pays attention to what's going on in the world, not
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
you mentioned the elections. Like they do what they do based on what's happening and where the world is going. Like this woman has nothing to do. The head of the department has nothing to do with automotive industry whatsoever. I forget what her degree was in. I met her at the Platinum Black event.
Yeah.
Very, very kind woman. And you know, I was like, "How did you end up at an auto company when that was nothing you did?" And she goes, "It's actually I kind of guide the whole company as to where we should go next." So you know,
The trends.
they're watching, they're paying attention to it. It's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, T3, you know, whether it's 3 or 5 or 7 or 9 years away, we're fine. We're set because we've got incredible vehicles in our garage right now.
I think
thanks-
about that often. I really do. I've never quite owned a vehicle where I'm so content. I really
Same here.
I'm not really in a big hurry. You know, I think we all are probably, and maybe not you, Joe, but me and Joe are sitting in some negative equity. So that goes double for us. So the longer that we kind of sit, you know, it gives us some more time to pay some stuff off. But I mean, I'm super content. We love our trucks. Like they keep getting better. I mean, as long I really hope to see Ford continue to support us. You know, both, you know, software and all that, hardware and all that, you know, and I do think they will do that. I really do. You know, and I think, some really exciting things will come even just later this year, throughout this year. I think we're going to see some really, really exciting things. So I hope that we see that. But if it's 5 years for T3, I don't know, maybe not.
I'll be approaching the end of my financing term.
Let's do like 2 to 3 years. That would be like that, because I'm still excited. I want to see this thing. I don't want to wait that long, but
Well, and
5
that's
years
where
might give me enough equity where I can actually move into it without losing my shirt.
Right. Well, and if we remember how the Lightning rollout went, there's like announcement, but then there's production and this, and then the line moves slowly, and so we'll just be rolling around in our Lightnings until then.
And I think we'll see it. I think we will see it before, you know, that. I think we'll see it before the factory's finished, all that sort of thing. I really do believe that, unless something crazy changes. I think we'll see it. It's just a matter of, will we see it this year, or would it be like first half of next year?
The trend that automakers seem to be moving towards, and for better or worse, is when they have an idea that they want the public to be excited about, aka, you know, investments and whatnot, it seems like they're announcing vehicles earlier and earlier to me, because I keep seeing these cool vehicles and then it's like, you know, orders open the following year. So if Ford follows that trend, I wouldn't be surprised if we started getting inklings and announcements and then a long gap before one hits the road. But
I agree.
Well, I feel like we've hit all the big talking points. I've had such a pleasure catching up with you guys because I haven't seen you in a while.
I know.
But I'll keep you in the loop with what's going on with my truck. And I want to thank everybody that tuned in. Our viewership numbers tonight were incredible, and I thank every single person that took the time to listen to us talk about our trucks and our experience. And thank you for engaging in the chat. We loved all the questions.
Yeah, that was the most we've had in
I
any
know.
podcast, I think. It was fun.
Yeah. So I think it's time for me and the gang to sign off. So good night from the Lightning Strikes podcast. Keep your eye on our Twitters so that you'll know when the next one is happening. And on the next one, guys.
Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.